Hello again, welcome to the Vision Channel. I'm Ron Jones, and once again we are in Clevedon and we are enjoying the kindness of Clevedon Family Church. My special guest on this occasion is Captain Brian Walpole. Another name that's been given to him is Captain Concorde. And as this program unfolds, you'll begin to understand why he also has that name. Well, Brian, welcome to the Vision Channel and welcome to Clevedon. Trust you're enjoying it so far. I do appreciate you breaking your holiday sort of thing in order to chat with me today. And right at the beginning, I'd like to have a little bit of background about your home life and your family. When you were a boy, I know it was many years ago, but when you were a boy and that sort of thing.
Well, I grew up in Ewell in Surrey, one of two boys, a younger brother, and a very loving and devoted mum and dad. A very happy childhood in a lovely home, animals, dogs, cats around. Yes, it was a happy childhood. And school.
How did you get on in school?
I enjoyed school. I particularly enjoyed the sporting side of school.
Oh, do you like Gerald Williams?
Yeah. Gerald Williams has done a lot for me. I'll
we'll
tell you of that later.
We'll come to that, yeah.
Sure.
Well, what was your favourite subject then?
Sports-wise, cricket.
Yeah.
I love my cricket, and my father was a very keen cricketer, and he encouraged me and led me and helped me in cricket. And
were you a batsman or a bowler?
A bit of a batsman.
Were you?
Yeah.
Just a bit of a batsman?
A bit of a batsman, yes.
I was a good batsman myself.
Ah, well, I'm more modest.
So, what about the educational side of school, apart from the sporting side?
Well, I went to Epsom College, very good public school, and very academically very strong. Primarily for sons of doctors, although my father wasn't a doctor, he was an accountant. But it was academically strong, and I was in the middle of the stream. I shuffled through and passed my exams and things, yes.
Yeah. And what sort of ambitions did you have when in your teenage years? For instance, did you always want to be a pilot?
No, not at all, not at all.
What do you want to be?
I went onto the stock exchange after I left Epsom College for 6 months prior to going to national service, which was the 2-year compulsory.
Yeah.
And then when the dreaded moment came to join national service, I thought, well, I've been in the Air Training Corps at Epsom College. I like the blue uniform. Why don't I join the RAF? And then I thought, well, if it's the Air Force, what about becoming a pilot? Because I knew they trained pilots. And so that's how I started down the pilot track.
And am I right that you joined the RAF when you were just about 18 years of age?
Yes, 18.
Tell me a little bit then about your early experience in the RAF as an 18, 19-year-old.
Well, selected to be trained for aircrew. There were a lot of tests and things, coordination things. And then into the training program, enjoyed it. I think I'd been given good coordination, hand-eye coordination, which is essential in pilot training.
Yeah.
And I came through the training very well. Yeah. And then I graduated onto jets, having started on dear old things like Tiger Moths, which flew at about 90 miles an hour, onto jets.
Was all this in the RAF?
All in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And at the end of my 2 years training in the Air Force, I thought, well, I've been through the rigorous bit, the training, but I'm now coming to the end of my 2 years. Why don't I apply to join a fighter squadron and enjoy 2 years of, quote, operational flying?
Yeah.
And so I decided to stay on for a further 2 years to make my total 4 years.
What planes did you fly?
Meteor 8s.
Those were the main
fighters.
ones?
Yeah, they were fighters, yes.
Now, you're in the Air Force for 4 years.
Yes.
What then? What happened when you left?
Then a big decision in my life. Options to go back to the stock market, to stay in the Air Force, or to go into civil aviation. And I talked to my dear good dad, and he said, Brian, if you want to go on flying, and I suspect you do, said he, I think you'll be better advised to go into civil aviation and make it a whole career, which is what I did, and it worked out pretty much that way.
Tell me your early experiences then of being in civil aviation. I understand that there came a moment when you were part of the 707 fleet, is that right?
Well, it was a little earlier than that. When I joined the BOAC, as it was then, in 1956, I had come from the Air Force, where I'd been flying fighters and been in the formation aerobatic team for the RAF. Top of the stack, dare I say it.
You dare say it.
To come into
You'd have said it even if I'd have said no, so it doesn't make any difference.
Yes. But then to come into BOAC and be the most junior of the junior pilots and sort of sitting third back on the left type of thing. I mean, and to be flying instead of at 600 miles an hour, at 180 miles an hour, I mean, that took a bit of swallowing, and I suddenly thought, I'm nobody again.
Is it right that you took the Queen Mother somewhere on the 707?
That was on 707.
707.
Yes, they're the big jets, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I flew the Queen, the Queen, halfway round the world in 1975 on a 707.
Yeah.
And subsequently flew her on Concorde from Barbados, yes.
Did you? And were you nervous when you had the Queen Mother and the Queen on board? What were your reactions?
No, my philosophy has always been that if I'm up the front and I arrive safely, the back will follow perfectly safely.
Oh, right. I hope every pilot's like that. Now, you weren't nervous then, you just accepted that philosophy. Now, in a few minutes, I want to move on to the Concorde time.
Right.
But before that, let's have a little bit of romance. Is that okay with you?
Certainly.
All right. When did you and Rosemary first meet? How old?
I was about 6 and Rosemary was about 3 when we first met. Quite a long time ago. We lived quite close to each other. We were within a mile of each other, and our parents knew each other. And
you must have been married about 10 then.
Feels like it.
Does it? That won't please her. Now, let me say this to you. Was it love at first sight? That's almost a daft question, isn't it? For a 6 and a 3-year-old.
It was love at first sight when I met the mature Rosemary, yes. Yes, there'd been quite a gap between my age of 6 and, 20 or 22, I think, when I sort of...
Right. So you lived close anyway, in the same neighbourhood.
Yes.
Tell me about the day wedding bells rang then. What date was that?
That was in 1959, 31st of Jan 59.
Yeah.
We were married, and we've lived happily ever since.
That's great. And you have 3 children?
Yes.
Is one of them Shelley?
Shelley is the younger daughter and youngest child.
Yes.
Yes, she's.
And then there's Graham.
There's Graham, my son.
Yeah.
And then I have an elder daughter, Julie, who is 42.
Shelley is in Canada, isn't she? In Vancouver.
She is indeed. She lives in Vancouver with her 4 lovely children, and she's married to a pastor, a Baptist minister in Vancouver. He's a very gifted, talented man. Great guy.
Oh, it must be great for you and Rosemary.
It is.
To know that. How many grandchildren have you got by way of interest?
13. 13. Yes, 13. And they range from 18 to 0.
I was just working out how expensive Christmas is for you. Am I right that the first commercial flight of Concorde was, I think I've got down, in 1976, is that about right?
21/1/76, that's right.
Were you involved in that?
No, I wasn't.
When did you become involved?
About 2 months after that,
Yeah.
I started my course, and that's a 6-month training course to convert onto Concorde. It's a technical course and a simulator and flying the aircraft and so on. Yes.
What sort of approach did you use in your own mind to that?
I knew it was going to be demanding. One had been told that. One knew the complexities of the aeroplane, and it was. It was mentally stretching, physically tiring. But at the end of it, you were qualified as a Concorde captain. I mean, Concorde, incredible aeroplane that it is. Twice the speed of sound, 1350 miles an hour, 23 miles a minute, mile in every 2 3/4 seconds, 10% fastener rifle bullet, lands into John O'Groats 24 minutes. Concorde.
Now, tell me, the very first time that you were in charge of a Concorde flight? When was that? How long had you been working with them?
It would have been in the June of '76,
Yeah.
when I took my first Concorde in command, so to speak.
In command, I meant,
yes, because you have various flights where you are acting under supervision of a senior captain and so on.
Yeah.
And so you're first on your own, so to speak, with your crew, of course, was in June of '76, yes.
How did you feel? What were your emotions?
I felt that was the fulfillment of a long training program, and very, very exciting indeed to think that I had got this magnificent animal was mine, and of course the responsibility of 100 passengers down the back and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yes. Was the plane filled when you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Was it?
Oh, they always were in those early days. Yeah.
Yes. Now you have praised Concorde in quite a number of ways, and I'm going to pick up two things that you've said about it that I read somewhere. The first one is this: you called it the beautiful bird.
Yes.
Give me an explanation of what you meant by that.
Well, it flies.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's a bird.
I asked for that.
And it's aesthetically quite beautiful to look at. I mean, the shape of that double delta wing is quite magnificent. And I think even today, after 27 years in service, people look up and say, that beautiful bird.
Yes, and now there's something else you said about it. To a reporter in the London Sunday Times,
Yes, sometimes.
I think, you said this: Concorde is a very demanding animal.
It is.
How do you equate a beautiful bird with a demanding animal?
Well, I think because it looks beautiful, it doesn't mean to say it's not complex. And Concorde is very complex. If you stripped away that beautiful metal finish to it, inside it are the most complicated systems in civil aviation.
I'm going to ask you, were there some moments in your flying experience that you felt were particularly demanding in some way or another?
Yes, there were many, but two instances would be the very, very first takeoff from New York. The Americans didn't want Concorde operating into New York on the basis that it would be noisy, and the environmental opposition to it was enormous.
Yeah.
We were granted, after a great deal of legal action, the rights to take Concorde into New York on a trial basis. And if we couldn't meet their noise requirements, they monitor noise for every takeoff, then Concorde would not be allowed into New York, and it would be a commercial disaster immediately.
Yeah.
And I remember the first test flight we took in, and the following morning we did the first ever takeoff of Concorde out of New York, and it was my shout, so to speak. And we comfortably met the noise levels. Now, I remember taxiing out and thinking, the future of Concorde is at stake here. I don't want to get this wrong. It was quite a complicated manoeuvre involving getting airborne 50 feet, turning 30 degrees of bank on and so on, throttling the engines, reapplying the power and so on. So that was a demanding element of it. And I think the other perhaps demanding one, a routine flight to New York out of London, and we had an engine fire warning over the Atlantic, and we, as a discipline, we have to shut that engine down, stop it, and continue on 3 engines below the speed of sound. We can't fly supersonically on 3 engines.
3 engines.
So we arrive in the New York area on 3 engines, and the forecast weather is good, but as we get close to New York, or committed to New York, the fog rolls in, unforecast. And we then have to do an automatic landing on 3 engines, and one of the autopilots fails, and we're sitting quite close to the edge of our seats, let me say that.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Now, I've heard and seen the Red Arrow flights. Quite something to look at.
Yes.
But I didn't know that Concorde had done a similar sort of thing, at least on one occasion. I think it was it Christmas Eve in 1985 or something like
Correct.
that? What was that all about? What was the occasion?
Well, the occasion really was coming up for the 10th anniversary of Concorde's first commercial flight, which would have been 21/1/86.
Yeah.
And there was not a lot of commercial activity just prior to Christmas. And we talked our chief executive, Colin Marshall, into allowing 4 Concordes to fly in formation just over the south of England, and it was photographed by everybody and anybody, aircraft with cameras, airborne and so on, taking pictures of the aeroplanes. It was quite unique, and in fact those pictures are still seen and revered.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I like your tie.
Ah.
You
Yes.
got what? There's
Well,
a
that's
Concorde on it. And
Concorde
some
and the red arrows. Yes,
That
for
looks
flying
really
in
smart.
formation.
I have my own Concorde, you know.
I didn't know.
Didn't you?
No.
What do you think to that?
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful bird.
It's difficult to handle.
Yes.
Keeps falling off, this jolly thing. There's 1,150 matchsticks
I've made that.
in that. I didn't make it, no. One. You don't believe me, do you? Have a look underneath. 1,000, what did I say?
150, 1150, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Beautiful.
Isn't it? Now, all right. I want to change track. Flying up there, seeing all that you saw.
Yeah.
Did you have much thought about God?
No. In a word? Not really. No.
None at all.
Not really. No. No.
And now I'm going to do a bit of name dropping. A few months ago, I did an interview with Gerald Williams, and Gerald Williams told me a lot about you. I won't go further than that, but he told me a lot about you.
Right.
Now, I'm going to give you a chance to say something about Gerald Williams and the part he might have played in your life.
Gerald set me on the first step to becoming a Christian. Back in 1985, I met Gerald.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear how I met him?
Yes, I'd like to know how you met him.
Well, we were at a tennis dinner. Gerald, of course, being a well-known tennis commentator, and he was one of the attendees. My daughter Shelley had won yet another prize. She was a very, very good tennis player, and she
was a professional, wasn't she?
She won Junior Wimbledon 3 years in a row at the age of 15, 16, 17, which hadn't been done for 50 years. And she then turned professional and played 4 years on the circuit. But we were at this dinner, and Shelley had been collecting prize, and Gerald came over to our table, and he said that he was on the following Thursday, this was a Saturday night, going to New York to commentate on one of the big indoor tournaments over there. And I said, "Oh, how are you getting there, Gerald?" He said, "Oh, I'm going on the back, going in the back of a 747. So I said, "Well, bad luck."
But you told me the back was the same as the front a few minutes ago.
Yes, it's so slow though. But I also said to Gerald, I said, "I'm going on, funny enough, on Thursday. I'm flying my beautiful Concorde to New York." And then it occurred to me, because I was responsible for the commercial activity of Concorde as well. I said,
I know
"Gerald," I said, "I'll do a deal with you. I'll put you on my Concorde to New York, provided that you undertake, as soon as you're sitting in front of a microphone, and you'll be doing a lot of that, to eulogize about Concorde and find a big audience where you can make the right noises." And he said, "It's on." And so on that following Thursday, he flew on my Concorde to New York. And it was the following morning we had breakfast together. And it was then that he said to me, "What part does God play in?" Yeah.
Just
I didn't,
like that?
Well, I didn't realize that he was a Christian at all. And
So would you say that was the first kind of stepping stone to you
very
eventually
much so. The
coming to faith?
introduction. Yeah, very much so.
And then there were lots of other stepping stones, weren't there?
There were. It unfolded from there.
Yes.
In that Gerald said, "Brian, when we get back to the UK, would you like to come to my church, big Baptist church in Guildford?" And I said, "No, not particularly, no." So he said, "Well, do me a favour." He said, I'm making all the right noises on television for you and so on Concorde. he said, do me a favour. So I thought, well, maybe when we get back,
You eventually went there?
We went back, lost touch with each other for a little while, and by sheer coincidence we came back into touch. And then he said, now come on, Brian, you are coming to Millmead. I'm not going to let you not go. And I thought, oh my God, tea with the vicar stuff.
And you went?
Anyhow, I went.
And you became a regular going, didn't you?
Well, he said to me, it's going to be very different from any church you've been in before.
Yeah.
He said, it'll be full. it'll be dynamic. It'll have its own little music group, and the pastor won't be wearing a dog collar. And I thought, oh well, maybe I will go. Anyhow, so I went, and I can remember going into that hall and seeing about 600 people there, all full of joy and praise and animated faces and expressions, and thoroughly enjoying it.
So those were further stepping stones.
I thought very much. I thought, they're enjoying this. What are they doing? Sort of thing.
Now you went to that church regularly for some time.
I did.
But Rosemary didn't come with you.
No, Rosemary came with me once.
Yeah, but that was all.
And once only. Yes.
Right. Now, one weekend when you were away.
Yes.
Rosemary felt that she needed to go, or she wanted to go, or God was making her go, so she went.
Yes.
And something dramatic happened.
Very much so.
Right.
She
what
woke up.
did you know when you went home?
Well, what did I know? She was different. She was still my lovely wife, but she was pale and she was preoccupied. She looked as though she'd lost a bit of weight. But basically, she told me that she had woken up on Sunday morning, the previous Sunday morning, and she had felt compelled to go to Millmead. She didn't know why. She went down to the Millmead church. She got there an hour before the service started. She sat through the service, and she came out having experienced really a Saul-type Damascus Road experience. Immediately.
So she beat you to it.
Oh, I was plodding.
Now, I want to take up a point that happened. And you had been going to church regularly.
Yes, about 6 months.
Right, okay. But you weren't a Christian, really. No. Now, are you really telling me and the viewers that it's possible to be a regular church attender without really being a Christian? Is that what you're telling me?
I am very definitely saying you can be a regular church attender without being a Christian. But I think that church attendance is an essential part of becoming a Christian, yes.
Now, Brian, you've reached the top in your career. You've done everything, seen everything. You've had a good career, probably a decent bank balance, a nice house, good health, a lovely wife, lovely family, all the rest of it. Why on earth, and a couple of dogs, by the way, and why on earth did you feel any need of God at all in your life?
I didn't really feel any need of God. I mean, if somebody had actually said to me, do you need God in your life? I think I would have said it in this very early stage, before I started the path. I would have said, look what I've achieved. I'm top of my profession. I've got all the blessings and things, and I don't need God. I've done all this. I was to learn as I walked the Christian path and eventually became a Christian, that everything that I had been given to me by God, whether it was ability to fly airplanes, whether it was my wife, my family, my children, whether it was the opportunities that I had been encouraged to take in a career path and whatever. Absolutely everything that was good had come from the Lord.
Yeah, great. Now, our time is just about gone. I want to ask you just two quick things. In a little chat that we had together, you said that after you became a Christian, you looked at the sky in a different way. Now, I thought you could only look at the sky in one way, looking up sort of thing. But after you had looked at it and seen it as you'd gone around with Concorde. But what did you mean when you said, after I became a Christian, I looked at the sky in a different way?
Prior to becoming a Christian, I had looked at the sky through the eyes of a pilot and a navigator, and I had always looked up at the particular stars and planets and thought, well, if I'm navigating tonight, I'd be using this planet and that star and so on. After I became a Christian, I looked up and I thought, this is God's creation. The enormity of it, the wonder of it, is all part of God's mighty creation. And he not only created it, he holds it together.
Great. Brian, I know that you made your decision for Christ. Eventually, you finally commitment to him in New York.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you one final question. Brian Walpole, you told me a bit of your story, a bit of your life, all the rest of it, achievements, the blessings that you've had. Tell me, Brian, this very moment today, what does Jesus Christ mean to you?
Christ, the Son of God, died for me on the cross. In doing that, he paid the price for my sins. I have repented my sins. I have been forgiven my sins. He has promised me eternal life if I accept him as my Lord and Saviour, which I have.
Great. One last question. Can anybody do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Brian, for giving your time to chat with me today. It's been great, and I'm sure the viewers will be blessed by what they've heard. Take Rosemary, have a good holiday. See you again sometime, I hope. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for...
God bless. There were lots of things that Brian said today that quite intrigued me and interested me. I just want to mention two as we come to the last moments of this program. He talked about the fact of the stepping stones in his life that eventually brought him to Christ when he made that final decision in New York. But at the same time, he talked about what he called the Damascus Road experience of his wife, Rosemary. And I thought to myself, well, for Brian, it took many steps to bring him to the place. But for Rosemary, it was just like a kind of big bang that suddenly happened and life was changed. And I'm ever so glad today that that happens to lots of people. For some of us, it's stepping stones to Christ. For others, it's something that happens just like happened to the apostle on the road of Damascus. And so today, the important thing is really that we know Christ, and as Brian said in his final remarks, that we repent and give our life to Christ, and that we might know the peace and the joy and the assurance of eternal life that he is able to give. Well, it's worth thinking about. So I'd like to say my thanks to the camera crew as well as to Brian and his wife for being with us, and to the church here at Clevedon Family Church for sponsoring this program. We appreciate that greatly. And of course to you, the viewers, for having us in your home once again. So this is Ron Jones saying goodbye for this time. See you somewhere on the road again. And in the meantime, remember, God is faithful always.